Have you ever hired someone amazing only for them to seem flat or unsure in their first few weeks? Or maybe you've been on the receiving end of bland employee onboarding where no one really knew what to do with you and your welcome was a bit welcoming. That first impression, it matters. And the great news is you don't need big budgets or a huge team to get this right. I'm going to show simple, high impact ways to add the wow factor to your onboarding process and make new joiners feel excited, valued, and ready to do their best work. So if you've ever found yourself thinking, I think we're giving a terrible experience to new hires, then check out episode 159 of the De-Stress Your Business podcast to dive so much deeper. Welcome to De-Stress Your Business, the podcast where we show you how to get incredible results in your business without constant stress. I'm Alexis Kingsbury, serial entrepreneur and founder at Airmanual. Now, when someone joins your business, they're in a state of high alert, absorbing everything around them. The way that they're treated in those first few days is going to really shape how they feel about the business for years. If they're welcomed warmly and supported effectively and feel like the people around them have really thought about their experience, they're far more likely to become engaged, loyal team members. Whereas if you throw them in the deep end without perhaps even a desk to sit at, or introduce them to everyone simultaneously with a long list of names that just blurs into one, they're going to feel really awkward over the coming days, weeks, and months, and you're not going to get the best out of them. So instead, what we want to be doing is delivering a bit of wow factor as part of that onboarding experience. Now, I've done whole other episodes and written an entire playbook on what a good employee onboarding process looks like, but I want to dive into some really specific examples of how you can add the wow factor to really give them a great experience. And when I say wow factor, I don't mean like just buying everyone an iPad. I mean thoughtful, personal touches that make a new hire feel seen. It's that sense of, oh, wow, they've thought of everything and they actually care about me that you really want to create from them. Now, one of the biggest missed opportunities that we tend to see is actually seeing the process of employee onboarding as being essentially the sort of employment contracts, the HRE, oh yes, we just need to do this bit. And whilst those things are important, actually, when I look at employee onboarding, I'm looking at the scope starting from essentially they accept the offer that you make as part of the recruitment process, right the way through that they're delivering value. In fact, at a workshop I ran recently, one of the attendees described it as that time to competence. How quickly can we get them delivering competently? Now, as a result, one of the biggest missed opportunities is the time between the job offer and the start date. So many businesses, the employee onboarding experience is one of radio silence. So instead of that, what if you sent them a quick email or even a video or some other resource showing them how excited that you are for them to start? Perhaps sharing some guidance on what's their first day going to look like and what should they expect. Perhaps you could include a fun welcome message or a personalized gift pack. Those sorts of things can really build a connection and help avoid that awkward sort of what if they've forgotten me kind of feeling, particularly when you've got employees that are starting with you, perhaps not for a while because of a long notice period or holiday or whatever. You don't want that sort of buyer's remorse feeling of, it sounded like a great company, but maybe I've made the wrong decision. So instead, having some of those things in advance of their first day to give them clarity on what's going to happen and show that they're valued and make them feel appreciated is really powerful. Another thing that you can then do to welcome them on their first day is to make sure that their workplace, their tools, their logins are all ready, rather than that awkward experience of either, oh, is that today? Oh, Jenny, is there a desk that they can have? And we'll pull you up a chair and so on. You want to have a really clear idea of exactly where they're going to be working. And if it's remotely, the equivalent applies, like what computer are they expected to be using on their first day? Plan that in advance. Make sure that that's all agreed and that they're comfortable so that they know where and how they're going to be working. But also make sure that they're set up with all the tools and logins and so on that can need to do their job. Because otherwise, if they start being asked to do things by their line manager or whatever, and they're not able to because they haven't got access, it slows everything down. It means that they can't contribute, and it'll often mean that their line manager or other teammates will say, oh, no worries, then I'll just do it for now, you carry on. Whereas if they've got everything set up, then they can start learning and adding value much quicker. One of the other things you can do is populate their calendar with the key meetings. And I'd recommend doing this both in their new work calendar, so that when they first open up their work calendar, they can see all the meetings that they've got that day and over the next few days. But also, particularly for those day one meetings, send them as invites to their personal email address as well, so that they can see what meetings that they're going to be having even before they step into the building. When they do come in the door and so on, you want to be able to greet them warmly, ideally with the manager or a buddy that you've assigned to them, and make sure that those people are available and are expecting them so that they can go do that. But also on that first day, avoid dumping everything on them at once. The pace of how you deliver that matters. Starting any new job can feel like drinking from the fire hose. It's all coming at once and it feels like it's all really important. It's difficult to prioritize what's most important, and it becomes impossible to remember everything. So wherever you can, if you document it as like a self-service onboarding checklist that someone can go through, learning about your core values and how you work and so on, that's really, really helpful. But particularly help them with understanding what should they do in what order. How long should they expect to take on each one? And is it okay if they need to refer back to it later if they forget? Another way in which you can create the wow factor is to create some meaningful team connections really early on. One simple but really powerful tactic is to assign a buddy. So someone who is close to them in role or level, who can answer questions, provide some guidance, and help them meet people. You could take that further by perhaps doing a team lunch or a virtual welcome event, just to break the ice and reinforce that sense of belonging. One of the things I often see people worry about when they're trying to improve their employee onboarding processes, but if I'm creating a checklist or making it self-service, won't that lose some of that connection with the team? My answer is, well, only if you let it. If you don't want managers and senior team members to be just spoon feeding information. That's not a very valuable interaction. But that doesn't mean that you have no interaction with your managers and leaders and so on. Instead, just make it purposeful. Identify what's the ideal. Is it maybe a coaching session with the manager to review their reflections on what they've learned in their first day or 2 days? With a senior leader, maybe you want a specific thing that you want them to do with that senior leader. Maybe have a coffee and discuss some of the goals that they're going to be contributing to, or what their career ambitions are, or what are the top tips that senior leader would have looking back on their career. Like being specific and intentional about the value you're expecting, rather than just saying, right, yeah, sit together, or can this senior leader just download a load of onboarding information about the company without structure and without the ability to refer back to it. So you can make it really focused and intentional to create that sense of belonging, that connection, and those relationships. One of the things that I do in my software company is we have cross-team waves, which are 15-minute calls that happen between members of the team that wouldn't normally work together. So perhaps between a software developer and a member of our sales team. And across our companies, all of those are done on rotation, so everyone gets an opportunity to connect with everyone else over the course of many months. But actually, for a person who's joining the company, we accelerate that process by arranging normally 4 of those within their first week, so that when they're joining team calls, there are a few friendly faces that they've had some proper conversations with, rather than it just being a wall of faces that they don't recognize. In fact, I want to emphasize that point around making sure that new hires feel seen by senior leadership, because it shouldn't be underestimated. Even the power of just a quick hello from a founder or a senior team leader can make a big difference. Perhaps a video call or a welcome note or something, just to signal that new hire matters to that senior leader. It really humanizes leadership and shows that the whole company is behind their success, rather than them just being seen as a cog in the machine. One of the other things that you can do to create wow factor is make the mission and values feel real. Often I see core values are often not done at all, but if they are, it's a poster that's stuck on a wall and then ignored. And actually, employee onboarding is one of your first biggest golden opportunities to really embed your firm's story and values and mission into the way in which that employee thinks about the company, not just as words on a slide or a poster, but with context and real examples. So for example, you could ask them to, having reviewed your core values or watched a video on them or whatever format you use, ask them to reflect on which company values they feel strongest in and which they feel they might need to grow most in. And then give them a step in the onboarding process to discuss that with their manager. That's an example of where we take our core values, we thread it into a process, in this case on employee onboarding, but then we are empowering the employee to both reflect and then to proactively discuss it with the manager, which creates ownership, it creates connection, and it creates an opportunity for a high value discussion between the manager and the new employee. Now, with all of these, so far, pretty much all of these have been completely free, right? Now, you can add some additional personal touches, but the key is that you don't need polished perfection. You don't need glossy, amazingly produced videos or branded hoodies to wow someone, right? What matters is the intentionality. It's are you thinking about their experience? Are you anticipating their needs? Are you making them feel special? If yes, they'll remember it forever. If not, and I recommend that you collect feedback from new hires as part of your standard process to improve it, then continuously improve that process to achieve that goal, because this is really, really important. And so you should check in during the first month, probably first at 1 week and at 4 weeks and at 13 weeks, and not just to ask how's it going? Ask what could be improved most in the onboarding. And that's a really easy and powerful way to continuously get better and spot issues before they fester. One of my favorite things as well is to actually get the employee to, particularly this works in smaller businesses, is get the new employee to identify ways in which it could be improved, agree some of those with them, like if there's easy wins, and then ideally even get them to implement it or get them to help implement it, so that you're showing that you really do value their input and that they can make a real difference in your company, even as quickly as within the first few days. Now, one other aspect of the wow factor I want to cover on is actually how onboarding can drive more word of mouth recruitment. Because when someone has a great onboarding experience and perhaps provides you feedback that tells you that that's the case, they're likely to talk about it. Certainly with friends and family, possibly in their old Slack groups and alumni, possibly even on social media, LinkedIn and so on. Encourage it. They will be nervous. They won't know whether that's an okay thing to do. Encourage it. Ask if they know someone who'd be a good fit, or nudge them to share their experience publicly if they feel comfortable to do so. It turns those new joiners into brand ambassadors, which is amazing both just for your company generally, but particularly on finding your next brilliant new hires, because your best people will come by those referrals. So in summary, if you want to de-stress your hiring and improve retention, then start with making that first week unforgettable. Add those thoughtful touches, build in the moments of connection, create clarity, make them feel valued. Because a new hire who's delighted early on, they're the ones that are going to stick around and are most likely to thrive. Now, if you're thinking, this all sounds great, Alexis, but I'd love a bit more detail. There's so much here. Perhaps a checklist that would make this easy to implement would be really handy right now. I've got you covered. We've put together a full employee onboarding playbook packed with step-by-step templates, email scripts, checklists, and way more, including a long list of all the sort of ways in which you can add the wow factor into your process. And so whether you're onboarding your first hire or your 50th or 1,000th, it'll help you deliver a consistent, high-quality experience without taking up all of your time. You can get instant access to the playbook at airmanual.link/playbooks, and then look for the one on employee onboarding. So that's airmanual.link/playbooks. So go check it out and make onboarding one less thing that you need to stress about. Thank you so much for listening. Please do like, subscribe, and share this podcast with other business leaders. Or if you don't know any, then go and meet more business leaders. They're really lovely people. I spend a lot of time with them. They're great. But otherwise, until next time, have fun.